This podcast was produced from a webinar. For a more interactive experience with visuals, visit advancedmanufacturing.org/webinars.
Just a bit of an agenda before we get started. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit about, just generally, I'm going to speak about what is integrated risk management as a whole. This won't take very long. And then we'll move into having Jeff Emrick and Jenna speak about the safety and risk collaboration at Ozinga. They're going to talk a little bit more in depth about really how they leverage integrated risk management at Ozinga. And then we'll open it up for some questions and answers towards the end of the webinar here. All right, moving ahead here. So what everyone wants to know, why would you care about integrated risk management? Why would you care about a synergy between safety and risk? I'll just say in my experience, certainly here at Origami and as well in prior roles and capacities, risk and safety have always partnered together. It has been my experience when clients that I'm consulting with or clients that I'm advising with, or even on the other side of things, when I functioned as a risk analyst. Risk managers, safety managers, leadership from both organizations really do tie together. And, the thing about integrated risk management is it allows safety and risk to kind of connect the dots between where things are happening in the organization, where the organization is headed from a mitigation perspective. When you have programs that have a strategic risk objective with a ultimate final goal or a final impact, you get more investment from those various stakeholders in those two organizations, as well as beyond other departments entirely, when there is a collaborating common denominator, let's just say, and a common language that everyone's speaking. That's usually what manifests in an integrated risk management approach. So since I've been saying integrated risk management so much, let's define it. So integrated risk management, it's data sharing. It is something that has been defined by some of the industry analysts like Gartner as an organization agreeing that they're going to utilize a set of practices and processes as a risk-aware culture, and use enabling and supporting technologies to really allow the visibility of those risk and safety performances in an effort to then measure and improve their decision-making process as a business. And we'll get into what this really means in coming slides here, but integrated risk management is ultimately a way for a company to take the data they're collecting, put it into a platform that not only these two departments use, but other departments as well, and gain useful analytics out of it around financial decisions. That's really what gets everyone's attention, is the financial impacts, right? And then they use those financial decisions to help mitigate risks going forward. So in practice, in the real world, where have we seen integrated risk management in action? Safety teams are usually measuring lagging indicators like incidents that are occurring, and they use investigations to arrive at root causes for those incidents. Safety then puts proactive measures like corrective actions in place to reduce the potential of those same types of incidents from occurring again. Risk teams are analyzing the financial impacts of lagging indicators like incidents and injuries, and using the costs of these incidents to establish a measure of the risk of the organization. Typical, a fall, slip, and trip claim that injures a specific body part. Well, most risk people can tell you exactly what their perspective on how much that's going to cost the organization, as well as an insurance level cost. Through an improvement in the reduction of actual losses, stemmed from the safety team kind of putting into practice their implementations of enhanced safety practices, risks able to confirm a reduction in those financial costs. So they kind of feed each other. It's a cyclical process. This is a measurement at what we've been calling something total cost of risk, right? The measure of the lagging indicators, the measure of the leading indicators, all of it coming together, and all of the finances that are used to really oversee the entire umbrella of risk. Risk is then confirming from a financial lens that the efforts of the safety team are having a measurable impact. So they're giving that feedback to the safety team via a financial measurement. And that is what, that allows an organization to really confirm that they are improving the overall safety of the organization. All right, so with that being stated and that kind of being laid out as the introduction to integrated risk management, let's talk specifically about Ozinga's approach to integrated risk management. And so what I'm going to do is ask Jeff Emrick. Jeff, why don't you tell us a little bit about Ozinga?
Sure. Thanks, Jeff, and everybody on the call. We are a 95-year-old ready-mix producing company that started back in 1928 in Chicago, hauling coal and oil type stuff back in the day. And our main business is producing concrete, putting it in trucks and delivering it to customers. That's about the extent. But we also have other affiliated businesses, including rail to ship aggregates, boats, and barges to move stuff. We have quarries where we mine aggregates. We're involved in the cement part of the business as well. We're currently in the 4th generation of ownership. We're a privately held company, and it's come a long way since 1928. It used to be a very old school company, and we're working our way into the modern age of safety and risk. On the next slide, you'll see our purpose statement. The owners have a strong set of values, and they want to make a positive impact on individuals, their families, and the community for generations. So it's a long-term view of why we do what we do. It's not just to make concrete and make money. It's to have an impact on people. And the nice thing about that statement is it ties directly into safety. We want all of our coworkers to go home safely. We want to take care of our customers on the job sites, and we want to take care of the community that we operate in as well. So that kind of keeps everybody pointed in the safe direction. And it helps us in the safety and risk world to guide our decisions as well.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Jeff, for our lovely introduction. So why IRM at Ozinga? Ozinga has been viewed as a high-value risk for many years. Essentially, we're categorized into 2 risk exposures, being construction and heavy auto. We're construction in the fact that our concrete is being used as the very foundation for buildings, warehouses, sometimes high-rises. And we have these giant concrete trucks on the road every single day. When you're a heavy transportation company in the era of nuclear verdicts, you tend to scare insurers off. They're not jumping at the chance to cover you. So with this in mind, and after some bad losses and tough renewals, Ozinga decided to take a more risk-aware approach. And what better way to do that than to put our own skin in the game? Ozinga's deductibles are high, so high that most of our claim costs are coming out of our own pockets. We do see significant premium savings because of that, but what I think is most attractive about that approach is a better safety culture as well as more control over our claims. With the integrated risk management framework, accident and injury information is coming in real time. We can quickly learn from our incidents or auto accidents and take appropriate actions in safety to make sure that they don't happen again. And we're also able to take a more aggressive claims approach. What's key about that for us is knowing when we have liability. When you have liability, you can kind of take 2 different routes in being mindful of your costs in claims as well as your legal costs. In one scenario, if we're 100% at fault in an auto accident, are we able to get all this person's contact information, reach them right away, and try to mitigate it before we even have to get an adjuster or an attorney involved? The other avenue being if we're 100% liable and litigation is imminent, we want to make sure that we get the right attorney on the file as soon as we can and push for mediation and settlement. Ozinga saw some pretty bad claims where we didn't have all the right information right away, and we believed ourselves not to be at fault. And we were driving up legal costs to a point for a defense we didn't really even have. So why waste money in denial or preparation for trial when you know you're ultimately going to pay? I think the integrated risk management works fairly strongly for Ozinga. We've seen many benefits there over the years, thanks to our close collaboration of risk and safety departments. as well as our partnership with Origami Risk and using their platform.
Right. So now, Jeff and Jenna, we're going to talk a little bit about the integrated risk management style at Ozinga, and through a series of a couple of different questions here, and obviously we'll take questions from the audience when they have some. But first, let's start with just describe to us a little bit about how are your different teams structured and your reporting style there.
Absolutely. So in regards to the poll, Jeff and I are actually option 2. We report through different structures, but we were very highly collaborative with each other. My department, the risk department, consists of 3 of us, and we report directly through finance. As I kind of mentioned before, deductibles are high, so there's great financial impact in what we're doing. How are we funding and what are we spending? My boss reports directly to our chief financial officer, and then myself and our in-house claims resolution manager report to her.
Yeah, on the safety side, we have a VP that's my boss. He reports directly to one of the owners. For safety, he's in charge of the EHS function. And then myself and I have full-time safety reps in each of our regions. We're currently in 5 states at plants in all those different locations and other affiliated things around the country. So we're kind of spread out. And each region has their own safety reps that kind of report to me. But we are very collaborative, as Jenna said, with the risk team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would just comment that it is not uncommon for me to see that kind of a setup at organizations where the treasury or financial arm kind of oversees the risk and insurance side of things, and then the operational side kind of oversees the environmental health and safety things. And then what you get is that collaboration, not only across your 2 teams at these levels that you're at, but also way high up in the C-suite. Those leaders will have to kind of communicate with each other around initiatives that operations wants to put in from a safety perspective, or the resulting costs, et cetera, from safety, right? Moving ahead here. Tell us, how did you collaborate to get into this integrated risk management approach that we're talking about today? What spawned that, and how did you work towards it?
I think we collaborated to achieve IRM in a few different ways. One of them being including Jeff in our insurance renewals. My boss came into her position around 2017, 2018. And up until that point, none of our insurers, or more specifically underwriters, had never met Jeff. And let me be the first to tell you that underwriters want to meet safety professionals. They're the ones in the field every day putting in policies and procedures to prevent losses. So every year we have a few different strategy calls with a ton of different underwriters on the call. And Jeff gets a safety update every single time. He's there with us in the process from start to finish. And when we wrap up the results, we let him know if we made any premium changes, if we took on a higher deductible. It's highly collaborative. I think it was kind of eye-opening for him when he got brought into this to see like what we were spending, all the strategy that is involved, and how much what he does impacts how we insure. And it was actually interesting because when Jeff's boss, our executive vice president of environmental health and safety, he came from a previous employer where risk and safety didn't work together. And he was a little unsure how that worked, and I think almost a little bit uncomfortable. But as soon as we brought him in on the fold, he was able to see why we collaborate and how important it is that we do collaborate. Another thing that we do, and I'm not sure if many others do this on the call, but we have our claim reviews together. Our claim process, especially workman's compensation, it's very collaborative. We get together once a quarter with risk, safety, operations. Some of our executive leaders are in the calls as well, and we talk about each open workman's comp claim. We're all working together to make that employee whole. What light duties options do we have? How do we want to go about this with settlements? They're able to get the full extent of an injury. They're able to see where this starts and where it could potentially go, depending on how we handle things. Another way too is with using the Origami Risk platform. When we took on the RIMIS, or the Risk Management Insurance Suite, we worked collaboratively the entire process. We designed the incident forms, claim forms, dashboards, reports, anything that went into it, we discussed it. And this worked so well that Jeff actually brought me in on when they purchased the environmental health and safety suite. And then most importantly too, and then Jeff kind of touched on this earlier, but I think we're unified by our company's purpose. You know, we want to make a positive impact on people in our communities as well as our coworkers. At the end of the day, we want everyone to go home safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great story. I mean, I am certainly seeing and have seen a lot of more underwriters going out into the field and witnessing for themselves, you know, the safety features that are in place, the safety programs that are in practice. And as a safety person, Jeff, I'm assuming you're more than happy to promote that. You're more than happy to kind of speak and have those kind of people come in and witness with their own eyes, like what's actually happening, so that they can be more objective and not subjective when they're going back to underwrite and do their job, which really, you know, really consists of spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff. Looking at past trends, when they have some perspective, some story around safety, it really helps them know that an organization like yours is moving in the right direction. Is that fair?
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yeah, having when we were smaller and I started in this position, I was kind of just managing safety, and then the financial people did the renewals. They'd come in my office and they would tell me, okay, here's our new deductible. It went up again. Here's our new premiums. I had no idea how they came up with those numbers. And then once we started collaborating, I started meeting the underwriters. We'd show them our trucks, because what we do is kind of unique. There's not a lot of people that understand the ready mix concrete business. And we'd sit them in the cab of the truck. They could look around, they could climb the ladder, they'd see our plans and see what we do. And then they'd see the additions we're making on our trucks, the improvements we're making on things, to make them feel comfortable that we're not just reacting, we're being proactive, and we're not just sitting around. That the safety guys understand how a claim can go bad and what a lawsuit looks like at the end of the process and how to avoid that.
Yeah, underwriters are definitely looking down the road, right? That's their job, is to look ahead. And if they can see some of the enhancements and improvements that you're making, I think that certainly gets factored in. Okay, great story there. Let's move ahead here. So tell us, Jenna and Jeff, what are some ways that you recommend, since you've already broken down those silos, those barriers, what are some ways you can recommend other professionals, your peers, to do the same?
Yeah, well, hopefully it won't be the way we kind of got motivated to do with some bad renewals. And so when we started having our file reviews, I got finally invited to those and see what was going on. I realized that the guys in the field need to hear this. And we're not a publicly held company, so a lot of this stuff is internal. The numbers we have, the dollars we spend, the owners kind of kept to themselves. And I asked them if we could start bringing the operations guys to these file reviews to see. And the VPs started coming and seeing, and one of them actually took me out to lunch after the meeting and pulled out our book of claims and said, how do I stop this? I'm embarrassed. My division has the most claims. And then he started to make changes in his group. But it was because he went to a risk meeting he'd never been to before. He started to see the value of that. And then it's easier in safety to get stuff done when the people spending the money see that repairing this piece of pavement in our yard is a lot cheaper than repairing somebody's back. Those safety decisions get a lot easier to justify. So once we had the openness about the claims, it was a lot more impactful. And then the whole time I started getting involved as well in the mediations of some of our lawsuits and getting involved in with the comp claim resolutions. And sitting in a room with a mediator and your attorneys listening to the other attorneys tell you what your guys did wrong and you know it's not true, kind of gives you an incentive to find ways to avoid getting there. And if you do get to that point, having as much on our side as we can. So it kind of closed the circle of something happened. We did a bunch of stuff in the meantime, and then we got to this bad place. What can we do at the beginning of the claim to move that? And a lot of it is using the software that we have with Origami, where we put everything in one spot. Something happens, all the pictures go in there, all the notes go in there, all the interviews go in there, the video from the trucks, video from our yards in one place. And then we have one place to look at that, and the risk people are able to see it right away too. They can start to assess How bad is this going to be? What's going to happen down the road? And because of that, we also started to have Monday calls. Every Monday, we discuss the incidents that happened the previous week. And Origami makes that really easy. I created a dashboard that shows everything that happened the previous week. It goes out on Friday to all the people on the call to see what's coming so they can prepare to talk about their region's incidents. And then Monday morning, another one goes out that's updated with anything that happened over the weekend or happened on Friday afternoon. And then we discuss every incident on that call. And we've got so many operations people on there that are the ones making the decisions in the field. Jenna and her boss can decide what we want to do for risk. I can decide what I want to do for safety. But if the guys in the field aren't conveying that message to the workers, none of that matters. So having this one place where we can put all the information, people can access things like photographs, not just for insurance purposes, but for training purposes. We'll take videos from our trucks of an accident and we'll put them out for training to our guys so they can see and have it not happen to them. And the other thing is, since we're spread out across the country, something might happen in Indiana that people in Wisconsin would used to never hear about. And now they have that information and they can make this, hey, we don't want that to happen up here. What can we do? And the renewal and the marketing involving safety with that, like we talked about, was huge. Now I know what kind of things the insurers are looking for. And now the risk people know what we can do on the safety side. And if we ever run into an issue where we got to really push something here, it's nice to have the insurance people come in and say, you know what, it's going to cost us this much more in premiums or this much more if we have a bad lawsuit. We're working together as a team to get stuff done. The other thing we do is we invite them to our safety Christmas party last week. We had the insurance people come because they know how to party.
Yeah, the insurance people usually spice up the holiday party. That's been my experience for sure. It's great. And so Jenna, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can also collaborate with Jeff, witness what they're doing from a safety perspective, and then come renewal time, make a really educated decision about Ozinga's appetite for risk in the terms of deductibles or retentions that you feel comfortable taking on, knowing that safety measures are in place to fix and prevent incidents that might have happened in the past. Just as an aside, is that a fair statement?
No, I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth, Jeff. Absolutely. And I think we break down those barriers by getting a seat at the table and giving all the right people a seat at the table. It's shared learning, and yes, this is more pertaining to risk, but there's certain elements too that Jeff is always willing to educate me on, like OSHA, whether something's recordable or not. I think we share knowledge and we help each other grow.
Yeah, great. Okay, so would all this be possible without, obviously, a platform in which to view data and make decisions? What your thoughts on this? Why would you leverage a technology?
Yeah, I think having technology for your integrated risk program is key, and it's about having the right technology that's best going to serve your needs. I meet a lot of people, and this used to be once us too, that everything's done in Excel, and I think we're to a point with technology that it's got to be beyond Excel. You need a platform that all the right people have access to. It needs to be able to collect a lot of data and store that data. With a RIMIS like Ozinga has in the EHS suite, it just better helps you prepare for your risk strategy because you're getting that data in real time and all of the right people are able to access the information. I know from risk, we are in a data-driven time. We can certainly go to our CFO and say, hey, I think we had to buy this more coverage, or maybe we need to take a higher deductible on this piece of the program, but you have to have the data to show why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's an interesting point both of you have been making is not only the technology you're leveraging, but how is it being utilized in an IRM strategy? I mean, Jeff, you mentioned some of those reports that you can sit down in a meeting with that are being generated for you to have these discussions. Tell us a little bit more, Jeff and Jenna, what this looks like from an integrated risk management perspective.
Sure. So as Jenna mentioned, my boss came from another company that used Origami, but only on the REMIS side. And he used a separate platform for tracking the safety stuff there. And when he came on board here, we were just looking at getting the EHS. So we looked at several systems. And the thing that made it easier for us to go with Origami was we were already using it on the REMIS side. We already had our people in the system. We already had our locations in the system. And the biggest thing was it happens to be the same software that our TPA uses to download their claim information to us. So that made it really one package to fit everything in there. So when we go from an incident to a claim that goes reported to the insurance company, we literally click a box on our claim internally, and it sends up all the information goes up to the carrier. So we don't have to retype stuff or re-enter stuff. It's all set up so it goes up there. And then every week they download our financials. So we have weekly updates on how the claims are costing us, and they can see that and other people, and that all gets reported easily within the company because it's all in one place. The other thing we're using with the technology in the system is our ability to get better at following up on corrective actions. In the past, something bad would happen. We'd be like, yeah, we can't let that happen again. We got to do this and this, but there wasn't any follow-up. And the EHS function of this is so customizable and so nice. We were able to create corrective actions off of our own custom-made investigation report that sends reminders to people that, hey, this still hasn't been fixed. This still hasn't been fixed. Get on this. And we can see reports of what's still out there to get done, what's been done. It's really, really customizable because the way we do things at our company is a little different than everybody else, and we want it just right our way. The other things that it does is that investigations are better. We created our custom form so that anybody could sit down and just go through a whole bunch of stuff and come to the real root causes that we feel are important, and then we can report on those. What are our most common root causes? Where are things happening, and what are we seeing as well? So that tight integration has been really nice, to the point where we're going to add on the environmental stuff here too, because we just saw the benefit in the risk. We saw it in the EHS safety part, and now we're going to add the environmental part to it also.
Yeah. I advanced the slide on you a little too quickly, but I want to point out that where the incidents and where risk occurs, generally in the field, right? I mean, that is usually something where it all starts. And so having a technology that's going to allow you to capture that information and work from it, reducing lag time, certainly one lever you can pull on getting in front of those claims.
Yeah,
Jeff.
so with the mobile stuff, is that if that's where you're heading on this, we really do use that a lot with the phones. Everyone's got a phone, and that's what my boss's previous company had. It was all app-based and phone, but we decided not to use that because it didn't tie in with everything as easily as we have. So Origami was able to recreate stuff he was familiar with in Origami and kind of make it our own. Job site audits, where we deliver our concrete, we're not in control of the safety there. Some general contractor or some contractor is in charge of making sure the site is safe. We just show up, deliver the concrete, but sometimes we're put in unsafe situations, and we want our drivers to be able to report that. We want our safety people to go out and see the jobs maybe before we start, so they can see what things we can make it changes to before things get going and make it safer for our guys. So we created job site audits that are real simple. It's just a few questions on the phone, but it lists the things that we think are important to safely deliver the concrete. My boss's previous company was really big into behavior-based observations, and being able to go out in the field, see a worker doing his job, and then praise them for what they're doing, or give some helpful tips to how to do the job better or safer. But we needed a way to record that and see, are people really doing it? And we created our own custom behavior-based observations. One question that leads into other questions. You can attach pictures to it. You can attach other information. You can assign corrective actions from it. So if they're on a job site and they see something unsafe, They can assign that to somebody to follow up. It gets tracked, and all that just kind of lives to the system until it's done.
Yeah, we're actually seeing an uptick in the number of organizations that want to track near misses, and really that does require, being right then and there when a near miss or a near hit or whatever the nomenclature is when that occurs, is having that quick ability to just whip the phone out, right? Snap a quick picture and take a footnote on why was it a near miss, and those kind of things can have tremendous results flowing into the overall safety to risk chain. Just kind of understanding something that almost happened, right? Jeff, I thought we would just go and maybe tell us a little bit about these weekly safety reviews that you do, and some examples there.
Sure. So we wanted to have this call, but I wanted to have information that would be useful to the people on the call, not just for the actual things we're going to talk about, but how we doing as a company. So I created this dashboard just on my own, took a few hours of work, and it comes out on Friday. Like I said, it comes out on Monday. And that number 12 was the week we had 12 incidents in that week. And we report everything at the company, no matter how minor it gets reported, so we can see our trends. We don't punish people for reporting incidents. We want to know everything that's going out there so they're not afraid to report. The number one in the green there is it was a near miss. We had a near miss that week, so we talked about it. I made it green so it didn't look bad. I can change the colors on stuff because I think that's fun. The total incidents at that time, we had 671 across the company. And then below that, the 3 was injuries that week that they've had. And then the 0 and 0 were OSHA recordable and lost time, something we never used to really be able to track till the end of the year. Here, we created some data inputs from our payroll to show the number of hours we're working every week, and then to show the number of people working. And we have almost live OSHA logs going because of the integration with the TPA and the way we track this. So we can see our rates every week that we want to see. Fortunately, that week, there were no lost time or OSHA recordable on there. And I made that green because that's good. Okay.
Yeah, and I think this was another kind of look at some of your weekly safety reviews on the incidents. Tell us a little bit
so this
about
is further down that a dashboard that gets out and sent out as a PDF attached to an email every week. And on that call, we not only have ops people in the field and safety people, we've got the risk people on there. So when they hear an incident that's happened, they can start asking questions like, well, did you do this? Why did you send them to the ER instead of the clinic? Or, hey, we need to really get on this one. We need more pictures of this, or we need some more interviews. So risk is right there at the beginning, hearing what's going on, and they're anticipating the long-term impacts. But not only that, but the questions they ask are helping our people in the field learn what they got to get early on in these to keep it from going bad. We also have some senior drivers on the call that are the ones training our other drivers. We want them to hear what's going on across the company so they can incorporate that into their training with the other people. Vice presidents that run each region are on the calls as well. And this charts here that you see with the donut graphs show who had the most incidents that week. And our VPs are very competitive. When they see they've had a lot, they kind of put their head down and try to get better. And when they don't have a lot, they praise their people for that. So it kind of tells us where things are happening in the company for that week. And then you can kind of see that number 8 down there. That shows the number of people who are currently off of work at the company. They're off for work comp reasons. And covered up by that other little box shows people who are on medical restrictions, the number of people. So we have a live update of how many people are currently not working in our company. And then that little pull-out box there is actually what we talk about for an incident on the week. So it's got the date of the incident, how long it took to get reported, the lag time I put on there. So if some regions are taking longer to report stuff, we want to know why. Tells us where it happened, gives their name, how long they've worked here. That's kind of, people want to know, was it a new guy or was it a senior guy that had it? What kind of coverage it hit or would hit if it became a claim. And then when they complete the investigation, the narrative can show up on this report too if they've done it in time for the call, and then some other information about if it's a medical claim.
And then just analytics galore. I mean, some of these analytics are great, and people love analytics. Tell us a little bit about these.
Sure. So this is like our history for the year to date. At the time of this was how many incidents we talked about on the calls. And we're in the Midwest here, the Chicago area. It gets cold in the winter, so our work slows down and the number of incidents kind of go down as well. And we can see that when we get busier, the incidents go up. So we have to focus more on that. Those kind of trends are in there. But in the box with the 4 pie charts is kind of interesting. We had seen in that top left one, where it says where incidents happened year to date, we saw about an even split between on job sites and in the yard. But then below that, where injuries happened, I broke it down to like, where are we hurting people? And we found out the way the majority of our injuries are happening in our own yards. So we can't control safety on the job site as much, but we're seeing that our own yards, our home court, we're having a majority of our injuries happening there. So the ability to break down the numbers in a way that people can understand kind of opens some eyes. We know our job sites can be risky, but we didn't realize our own yards were that risky as well. And then the typical stuff in the bottom right of that one there, like what's our top 10 injury causes? Of course, you could all say slips, trips, and falls. This just verifies that it's true. And we can see if there's some that sneak up that aren't what you'd normally expect. Those are the ones we kind of focus on as well.
Yeah, I mean, what's the number one way to prevent false slips and trips? Just nobody move anywhere, right? Just lay down the rest of your life, right? That's the one way.
Yeah. Bubble wrap too. We're thinking about
yeah, right. Okay, so I'd like to know a little bit more, and I think everyone else would. Tell us about the results. So tell us, this is really the full realization of integrated risk management after it's been in practice for you for some time. How is this quantifying for you? So let's hear a little bit about that.
Sure. The most obvious being, as you can see on the screen, is reduction in claims. If it's a little hard to see, our workers' compensation claims are highlighted in the light blue, and then our auto liability claims are in the dark blue. As you can see, since 2017, our claims are trending down. A couple of things that you can't see on the graph, for example, in 2020, that is the year that we integrated using Origami Risk. I believe, which year did we install the cameras in the trucks?
The original cameras
Yes.
were in 2017. Yeah.
Okay, and then what about the forward facing?
The driver facing ones,
Yes.
we started in 2020.
In 2020.
Yeah.
Okay. So in 2020, and I'll let Jeff kind of add a little bit more later, but we installed forward facing cameras in our cabs. This allowed us to better see, we had a lot of accidents where we didn't know what the driver was doing. So with the forward facing cameras, we're able to see, is this driver distracted? Was he taking a drink of water? What we do is with all of Jeff's safety pros, they sit down with the drivers and then they coach them on it. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So we were able with those cameras to have our senior drivers or our safety people, depending on the region, actually review the videos with the driver to see what they could have done to improve. And we've seen a huge improvement in our drivers because of the coaching. We also integrated Smith system training to help them talk about ways to improve their driving. And we were able to see the results of that already. So as Jenna said, the dark blue parts of those bar charts were our auto claims. And in 2020, we started implementing the Smith system and the smart drive and the coaching. And we can see that part of the charts got smaller. And this is just for our Chicago region here. I pulled up Chicago because that's the urban environment we drive in, where it's the hardest to drive. It's the most traffic, the most pedestrians, the most bicyclists out there. And we actually have seen an improvement in that stuff. So we were able to justify, hey, we spent this money on the cameras, we spent the money on the training, and look, it's paid off. So sometimes safety people don't just spend money. Sometimes we can do things to help save money as well.
I think another area too where we've seen some really good results is we've had some very successful casualty renewals. We actually just came off one this past spring. So back in kind of the 2017 to 2019 timeframe, we had some very tough renewals. We had a lot of carriers say no to us, which was very stressful and very hard to get coverage. Fast forward to 2023, we have such great data. We brought the underwriters out. Jeff did a really good presentation on what we're doing safety-wise, and we had at least 3 carriers practically falling over themselves to insure our program. Another beneficial thing we'll see to this too is with your casualty insurance, I'm not sure if everyone knows, but it's your auto, it's your GL, it's your comp, and then it's your lead umbrella. Usually our umbrella underwriter won't come in with a quote until the main casualty has provided their quote, because they want to see, is the GL and the auto going up? Should we go up also? This year, because we had such a successful meeting with them and we went to dinner, we had several calls, they were able to come in with their quote before the main primary even did. So with all the actions we're taking, we're seeing a lot more success with pricing, as well as a quicker casualty renewal process. And then just another example to give is with the data that we had, we actually made a very big decision a couple of years ago in regards to the week of Thanksgiving. After running some reports through Origami, we were able to see that all of our really tough claims, specifically to injuries, were happening the week of Thanksgiving. And, you know, kind of what we inferred is drivers are probably stressed, you know, they'd have to get everything ready for their families, and then they'd have to come right back at it on Fridays. So after discussing it with safety insurance as well as our ownership, we decided to have all drivers off the Black Friday or the Friday following Thanksgiving. And some of our customers actually followed our lead.
And the nice thing about that is the drivers didn't have to worry about, well, can I make plans? They could buy plane tickets knowing they weren't going to be working on that Friday, and they could take a long weekend, which they'd never been able to do before. And that hovering over their heads in the past, I think, led to the possibility of distractions, not being able to focus on the job because they're worried about, I won't know till Wednesday night if I'm going to have to work Friday. The owners make this announcement in October so people can make plans, and we've seen a really significant reduction in our that time frame of serious claims as well.
That's amazing because it's already anxiety riddled to drive in Chicago as a 20-year Chicago, and I'll just tell you that alone, as you've already commented. So that's an amazing story right there. Just giving those drivers the ability to kind of see ahead and let them function that week without having to have that extra kind of worries around them. Anything else on this, or should we move ahead with some questions and get to the next slide here?
No, we can
Move ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So before we address some questions, just kind of summarizing where we've seen things. True partnership. Jenna and Jeff, you guys definitely, even sitting in the same room for the webinar, I mean, it's evident. Going to the holiday party together, certainly something that speaks volumes there. The business results, you've definitely shown us how Ozinga has really turned itself around from a risk perspective, improved the safety, all of these things are really through the collaboration of your two departments and you guys spearheading a lot of this. Technology, using the technology to really bring other leaders in your organization into the knowledge of where things are lying from a risk and safety perspective, and helping them help make decisions around how to reduce your total cost of risk. And just pointing out Ozinga's success story here is just one of many that we've seen where this is something that can be done. Let's move ahead with some questions. Before we get into questions, just mentioning that, you know, you can learn more about this integrated risk management as an entire topic simply by going to our website at this address or even using the QR code here.
Great. Well, I want to thank our presenters, Jeff, and Jenna. And as Jeff mentioned, we have about 20 minutes for Q&A here. And to our attendees who have not yet submitted a question, go ahead and do that in the Q&A box that should be around the bottom right of your screen. We have, as I mentioned, about 15 minutes to go through those, and any we do not get to today, we'll make sure our presenters respond to you via email and keep that conversation going. I also wanted to point out that this presentation will be available this afternoon after about 4 o'clock Eastern in its recorded format, and you can watch it as many times as you like. Just log in using the credentials that you used to join us today, and we certainly encourage you to share the link and the credentials with any colleagues who you think might also benefit from this topic. Okay, so let's jump into some questions. Jeff, are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, great. So someone wants to know what kind of data integrations are powering the dashboards that you and the presenters shared today.
Yeah. So the system, no integrations are necessary. The system relies heavily upon the data that you capture in the field and the data that you enter manually, but certainly it makes things a lot more seamless and a lot more automated to have integrations with other systems that you might be using elsewhere. And so we know with Ozinga, they're integrating Origami with their human resources information system, or HRIS or HR system, whatever you want to call it, as well as an ERP system to help them get some of those rates, right? So when you're calculating trends, it's like how many losses per mile driven, or how many dollars was spent per employee. So in this scenario, what Ozinga is doing, those are the only two automated integrations they have. They're also manually uploading or manually importing data to their TPA and carrier and getting data back from the TPA and carrier. That's one that we actually see quite commonly as an integration, automated as well. Fleet information is something that's easily uploaded via a spreadsheet or a CSV file, et cetera. And then like their project sites, their locations are something that they're manually entering or manually uploading. We commonly see integrations around those as well. It really does depend on the client and the volume of that information. We also feature a REST API for client-driven integration. So if you have a Power BI or you have a data warehouse or other systems that have their own API and you want to pull data or push data in and out of Origami, you can do that. We also quite commonly set up Origami to call other systems APIs. And really, that's innovative. That's current technology, but we also, it hasn't changed since I've been here for over 9 years now, is that really the most simplistic and secure way to do things is with a flat file, all right? So one system dumps it out to a flat file, encrypts it, puts it on a secure FTP site, we pick it up, or vice versa. Due to the nature of the data, a lot of this stuff is not necessarily real-time sensitive, so that's a very simplistic approach and a very common one that we see.
Great. Okay, someone else wants to know, why did you decide to adopt dash cams, and who, risk or safety, was the key driver of that decision?
Yeah, so at Ozinga, I think what you heard was a culture of safety kind of coming through all the way from their kind of starting in the 1920s and then building up into like their leaders and their owners really do like personify this culture of safety and getting the workers home safely every night and protecting the community. So like, if you're, if a concrete truck is driving by, they care about not injuring you or damaging your property. So the decision to adopt the dash cams was part of that culture of safety. It was something that was initially requested by the drivers. And I think the drivers saw that as a way of ensuring that they weren't being put under unnecessary scrutiny for their safe driving practices when, in Chicago and a lot of places I've driven, people are driving erratically. Right?
Yeah.
Eventually what we heard was an incident did occur on a snowy road, and the Ozinga driver was not at fault, and the dash cam proved that. And so following that, leadership paid attention and said, aha, you know what? Cameras in every truck's kind of, dash cams, right? Over time, leadership then saw, I think we even heard Jenna say, like, driver taking a drink of water or something like that. The driver saw the need, or Ozinga saw the need to have the driver-facing cams as part of the practice to really bolster that observation, the behavior-based safety approach. In terms of whether it was risk or safety, leadership above them both was the one that recognized like the partnership and decided it was an easy operational investment to make. What we know is that for safety at Ozinga, having cameras really made sense from a training perspective. The coaching, pre-loss observations, when an incident occurs, it's not the fault of the driver. The risk team has the facts to approach opposing counsel as well and head off any lawsuits, right? Say, hey, we got a dash cam. Your guy, was driving all over the road and hit our truck. So.
Yeah, and the data that they shared as well in terms of all the analytics that you can cull out of that, and as well as just the results. The results are pretty stellar, just in terms of the sheer volume of incidents decreasing. Okay, so let's jump into another question. What are some other examples of situations or places where risk and safety teams are bringing together their data and teams?
Yeah, it's a great one. It's a good story for a lot of our clients. A significant number of our, 1,000 clients is safety and risk partnering together, and they do it in a variety of different ways. No two companies, even in the same industry, no two companies are exactly the same from an operational perspective. It's really a reflection of their maturity, right? Where they are from a maturity perspective on their risk and safety, different collaborations based upon the industry. One example, just jumping completely to a different industry, is I think most people are knowledgeable about a restaurant called the Cheesecake Factory. They measure risk and safety working together. They measure, they have a practice of measuring alignment with policies and procedures in each restaurant. Each region has its own set of restaurants. And so in each region, they will use Origami to measure how well a restaurant has aligned with the safety policies and procedures that they put out. And then they'll give them a financial incentive, based upon how well they perform there. That's a carrot, right? The data they track in Origami is used to establish these incentives. We see this commonly. It's not just in that specific use case, but this is something that we know happens in a lot of different companies, is allocating the actual costs of safety or actually the losses back to a specific region head or a specific individual location. I've seen a lot of situations, I've talked with a lot of safety and risk leaders where they have a monthly leadership call to discuss the losses that have occurred and talk about the corrective actions that they established to mitigate those losses. And then other safety leaders are encouraged to take those countermeasures and apply them in their regions to prevent those, similar losses from occurring. This really does ensure that risk and safety teams, as Jenna kind of even said, have some skin in the game. To make sure that they're aligning the overall workplace safety for employees and then the community or the guests, et cetera.
Great. Thank you for that. Another question, why do you want to see all of these near miss reports? Does it just clog up the system?
No, not at all. So, I mentioned in the webinar that, we hear from a lot of people that they want to really, they don't even have a mechanism to capture near misses. Sure, like incidents that result in some sort of an injury or a loss, they track those. But the good catches or the near misses or the aha, those are things that they really don't have a lot of. And what we know at Ozinga is that they embrace the policy of no matter how small the near miss, it's something that should be reviewed. Yeah. Jeff was telling me there was one Monday meeting where they were discussing near misses, and they were talking about a driver who backed into a trash can. And on his phone, Jeff was getting a bunch of texts from people that were on the call, like, why are we talking about a trash can right now? And Jeff's response was, well, it could have been a human being, right? So that is insight into a near miss. I mean, it's obviously in the name. A near miss is valuable in the sense that it could have been a loss that you'd be talking about in a courtroom 5 years from now, right? So no matter how small, they want to collect the data. Now, in terms of clogging up the system, not really something you have to worry about with a solution or a platform, is because you can set up severities. You can set up workflows to help you understand, well, what should I be focusing my attention on? Did we have a bunch of, low value near misses that we can review some other point in time, but here's a more high value or a more severe near miss that really does require, 15-minute stand up with some people to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And again, it goes back to that journey that clients are on, right? You might start out a relatively low volume or analyzing every single near miss, but then over time, as you evolve and start getting that volume, the system, the workflows, the categorization of those things can evolve with you. Another thing we heard at Ozinga is that not all the workers are allowed to have their phones in the field. Obviously, there's a law here in Illinois, I believe, and a lot of states where if the cop even sees you with the phone in your hand, you're getting a ticket. Yeah. So a lot of times what they do is they'll write things down on a piece of paper, give that to a supervisor. The supervisor will then input the near misses just so that they can become part of that review cadence. And it goes back to that idea of like, no matter how small, everything should be reported, because again, you don't want to overlook something that blossoms into a more significant incident down the road. So
yeah, and we're in an age where everybody's talking about data, but it's really about the insights that you're getting from that data. So these are all extremely valuable points in terms of better decision making as you evolve in whatever your customers' journeys are. Great. Okay,
yep,
so
for sure.
Another question is, how do you leverage safety data with brokers in renewal conversations?
Yeah, so I loved how Jenna talked about, at first they were kind of like the non-welcome people at the party at Ozinga when it came to, that no carrier wanted their business, and then it kind of flip-flopped that and turned into like, okay, the carriers are falling over themselves to talk to them because they made such a dramatic improvement in their loss ratios. When risk departments are talking with brokers, they can paint this picture of safety, talking about the policies and procedures, data and trends, the dashboards that we showed. Those speak louder than practices that are put in place. Insurers, they tend to focus on metrics like numbers and numbers of claims and numbers of employees and miles driven and square footage. Underwriters also can stump you. They can put those tough subjective questions out there that could be kind of ambiguous to answer. A good example is like, what are you doing for the safety of non-employees? Things like that. At Ozinga, what they're able to do is show the safety data that they've captured, like near misses, audits and inspections, corrective actions they put in place. Gives them a view. It gives brokers the ability to go to the carrier and say, here's a view even into the subjective measures of safety at a company that an underwriter would want to know. And then at renewals, underwriters and brokers can track the investments that Ozinga and other companies can make in safety. So we definitely talked about like attaching costs to everything. For example, like dash cams and driver cams. I think, Jenna pointed out a dashboard showing a bar chart of like, hey, when did we install the driver-facing cams? And you could see the curve just went straight down, right?
Absolutely.
In terms of like the number of losses. So all of those things, having this presentation layer to be able to give to brokers, to give to the carriers and say, look, they're safe, or they've demonstrated an increase in safety over so many years by doing X, Y, and Z. All things that, they can track inside of a system like Origami and report on pretty easily. So
great. Well, I know we're coming up on time, so I certainly want to take this moment to thank Jeff, and Jenna for that conversation and sharing those really tangible examples. I think it's so valuable for our attendees. And I also want to thank our attendees for tuning in. We hope you found the content valuable and you'll join us again soon. And until then, please remember that SME and SME Media are here to help you stay up to date on all things manufacturing. You can find links and get information related to our podcast, additional webinars, publications, and news by visiting us at advancedmanufacturing.org. Take care, everybody.